Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today is quite a special day because we got a special guest. My friend The Race for Terror tries to tell me today that his throttling berserkers are able to catch my fast white scars. But since we on the didnt channel are good hosts, I would ask my friend The Race for Terror to first introduce himself and his channel.
So, hi everyone. My name is Enrique, and I run a small YouTube channel called The Race for Terra. Mostly, I would say that my purpose with the channel is twofold. I try to do weathering tutorials on the one hand, and generalist heresy content on the other.
So you do weathering tutorials, and but you also did like a unit review, right? Where you showed where you showed the Bombard and World Eaters Tactical Marines without Galahad Solak, for example.
Correct. Yeah, that was part of a series that I would like to continue, called Underrated Heresy Units. And as you said, I was trying to show that world leaders don't always need Gale and Serlac.
Yeah, it was quite the nice. It was quite the nice video. The Bombard rules, for example, they did really, how can I say it, surprise me, and I thought they are very nice. So as you all can see, I will open my White Scars list now. I've brought quite the fast list, with everyone basically being on a jet bike except 20 Marines. And you, Enrique, have brought some a dread heavy list, and with a lot of drop pods, as the people can see on the screen now. How do you think you can catch me?
Well, I might not be able to. We didn't know what the other was going to bring until we shared each other's list. So I wasn't expecting such a fast list, if you like, on your part, or perhaps such a versatile one, because you really have a variety of units. And it's not a really extreme list. You've gone for a very sort of balanced approach, I think. Whereas mine is a bit of a one-trick pony. So I think I would struggle, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, the how I build lists, coming from an Iron Warriors background, I build very let's say defensive lists. So going all out with my White Scars is kind of a challenge for me sometimes. When you have played Iron Warriors for the first 3 years, you've played Heresy, and they are quite the ranged force, I would say.
Right.
But I think we both brought very nice lists. Um, and what I love about your list is the dreadnoughts and the drop pods. But another thing, when we are talking about the general lists right now, is um, how do you feel an game like this, where one brings a very balanced army and you bring a one-trick pony? How does that play out with the Age of Darkness rules, the Horus Heresy rules?
Well, I think that the Age of Darkness rule set is really solid, actually. And I think it'll depend very much on the mission that we play. And I would include the deployment there, and also, of course, the setup of the board, so the terrain that's available to us. I think all of those factors will make probably a bigger impact than the lists, or they might soften some of the possible flaws in the lists, or lack of synergy between them. My list is not really very compatible with yours because it's more predicated on the opponent having super heavies, or having something that the opponent wants to defend, basically, and you really don't, because it's all really mobile except for your Leviathan. So yeah, in principle, I don't think our lists are the best for each other, but I think it'll depend on the mission, the deployment and the terrain that's available.
Yeah, and something I didn't do, but you did, that's not a problem. But you brought a super heavy unit. You brought a Typhon siege tank, something a lot of people would not, or let me find it on the list, something a lot of people would not uh, see in a World Eater's army. I think a lot of people would say, oh, why don't you get another Spartan? Or, yeah, you can't get a Spartan and a full tactical squad, but why don't you get another blob of tacticals and apothecary maybe instead of the Typhon siege tank? Can you tell me why you did take the Typhon?
Well, the funny thing is, my Typhon hasn't actually had a great deal of success in game. I mean, comparatively speaking, but I just love the model, and it's one of the best painted ones that I have. So if we do play and have a battle report, I definitely will try to to put it to use. And that's one thing. And the other thing is tactical, and that's the no cover save allowed, because you know what is going to happen with your jinking vehicles, right?
Yeah, they can't because jinking is actually a cover save, people, so that you know. Um, and as you see, no cover save allowed. So if he shoots his Typhon siege gun at my at my jetbike squad, it's possible that they are all gone.
Yeah, it's strength 10 as well, so it'll double you out. So that's part of the idea. That, and I like the the concept of a really bullish brutish tank that really doesn't require much aiming, for example. It's not a finesse weapon.
Yeah, but Ferris, it's like in the first Black Book, it said that Ferris Manus even admired the armored assaults of the World Eaters. So
Hmm.
before they went completely insane, I could definitely see them use Vindicators and Typhon siege tanks to break the walls of a city before they attack it. So,
Exactly. I mean, if you read Betrayer, it's right there that they had like huge tank formations, basically.
okay, so another point I see with your army is it's very good to see an army without Serlac and two Spartans. That's basically every World Eater's army ever I've seen on the internet. It's Serlac, inductees, two Spartans, and maybe I don't know, Serlac Master of the Legion.
No, no, I don't think so. No.
Yeah, then you would probably have a Praetor too, and some Red Butchers. But you don't have Red Butchers, you don't have Serlac, and you don't have inductees. Why you do it?
Well, to be honest, more than anything, I like being original. The world leaders have been out there since book one, and I mean, Galen Sorlak is a more recent development, but same as you've said, everyone has seen that kind of list, right? So I wouldn't want to be yet another list with Galen Sorlak and the spoilers and the True Spartans and so on. That's one thing, and the other thing. Um, I mean, everyone likes Spartans, but I prefer the concept of a kind of orbital strike, so that's why I've gone more pot heavy.
Yet I must say, like when I look at your list, I like overall look at your list. It's such an awesome list, and also like I feel like the community sometimes, how can you say it, um, puts the world eaters like in a corner. You have to play them like this. You have to get Sir like an either a Storm Eagle or a Spartan or whatever.
Hmm.
But that really isn't the thing for me. I mean, if I look at your list, and I would have played my Iron Warriors, for example, I would have gotten big problems dealing with them. 20-man assault squads, a couple of berserker squads, and whatever.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was expecting, more like it. So I think it would have been much more effective against more defensive kind of semi-static force like the Iron Warriors tend to be. But as you said, the critical thing is all the legions were really able to do anything. They had the equipment and they had the skills to really vary the way that they fought. And I think it's really not fun if you're always playing the same kind of list against the same kind of opponent. I mean, that gets old pretty quickly, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people underestimate that the Primarchs. I mean, in the books, the Primarchs are very one-dimensional,
Hmm.
but
Well,
we
some more.
really, yeah, really, when you read like the Black Books of the Horus Heresy, you know that there's maybe Iron Warriors, Recon Marines, or Raven Guard Terminator formations,
Exactly, yeah, and
or
everything in
something
between.
like that. Okay. Okay. So now that we are done talking about your army a little bit, and we heard a couple of times from you that you think my army is very mobile
Hmm.
and very balanced, let's talk a little bit about my list. So I brought a chaplain on a jet bike because it's White Scars, right? And then I brought a praetor, but other than you, I didn't give the praetor. I didn't give the praetor the name in Battle Scribe. He has actually. Um, so we have the Master of the Legion praetor, uh, like everybody brings a praetor for the Master of the Legion, mostly I think, and he has a command squad. So we all know that the command squads aren't the best units in the game, but how do you feel about that? I just brought a command squad with combat shields and power axes and the standard. Like,
Well, I think it's a really strong choice. The only thing that surprised me was the combat shields. That did surprise me a little bit. In fact, I wasn't really aware that you could add that to jetpack unit. I think it's a good combination, and the addition of the chaplain makes it much more potent, I think.
yeah, because usually when a lot of people think that the jet bikes are they are the toughness 5 and they are the very bulky. I think they are very bulky, right? Yeah, very bulky.
Hmm.
There it is. They think a lot of people think that they are a very good melee unit, but they really are not. They are better at shooting because the normal Astartes profile, weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 4, toughness 4, toughness 5, strength 4, is not better than the heavy bolter you can see here. So the jetbikes are quite a shooty weapon, quite a shooty unit, and
Hmm.
I feel like you need to kind of balance it. What I usually do is I maybe shoot a turn or two at the target before I charge it with my jet bikes, especially for your world eaters because they are strength 5. So the bonus I get against charging Astartes is completely high, like the Imperial Fists would say, non-vi against your world eaters because they get +1 strength, right?
Yeah, I mean, not as a result of being augmented in ductize as per Galen Serlac, but just a chain X. Yep.
Okay, and when you saw my list, you saw I brought two dreadnoughts, and it's a White Scars army.
Hmm.
Um, what do you think when you saw that I brought two dreadnoughts, especially two melee dreadnoughts?
Yeah, I was a bit surprised. To be honest, I would argue that bringing a Leviathan without a pod is not a good idea. I think they're a bit too slow for this kind of game, but again, it will depend on the mission and the deployment and the terrain. But generally speaking, I don't think that's a good choice. The Contemptors, though, since they can run and they're generally faster, move through cover, and so on, I think are perfectly fine on foot. Um, Again, this and your infantry units are very much part of what I meant when I said that the list was really balanced, and I think it's a good idea, and it also gave you the flexibility to adapt better to whichever I brought. You didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, because like most people that watch our channels now know, is that we both have multiple armies. I have two that are playable at 2.5k, And you have, I don't know how many, I think at least two. You have Mechanicum and World Eaters.
Yeah,
You're
I have
working on
a
Death Guard right now, right?
no. That was just for painting purposes, just for the hobby.
Okay.
I have a very large Order Reductor army, about 5,000 points. The World Leaders are work in progress. In fact, before a game, I would have to paint up some of those Assault Marines. I only have 10 right now, so I would have to do a bit of work. But I love having, you know, hobby targets that are dependent on games. That's how I do my best work.
Yeah, and I feel like that when you set yourself a target, going a little bit off topic here, but I think it kind of still works.
Hmm.
Going, having hobby goals for anything, any hobby, whatever wargaming hobby you pursue, is a good motivator for painting actually. Because what
Sure.
I see on the internet is a lot of people struggle with painting, especially. They buy a lot of models, maybe. They buy like, I don't know, 20, 40 tacticals uh, tacticals, and then they buy a Sicaran and another flyer or a Spartan, and they are so overwhelmed by the amount of kits they have to buy and to build that they kind of just stop and play with unpainted models. So you saying that having hobby goals motivates you is maybe a thing that generally helps other people as well.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, Dantiok, you know that I've run for years now a Warhammer School Club, and for the last 5 years, the main thing we've played is Heresy actually, and these are kids between 11 and 16 years of age, so some of them are quite young, and they're all painting like mad to be able to play the games, because the first rule that we have is that nobody plays with unpainted models, not even friendly games.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people when I talked to a little bit of the 40k community, and I'm not trying to throw shade, but um, when I said, yeah, I think it's more immersive having fully painted armies than just having gray plastic on the field. They said, yeah, no, I don't see it like that. You still have your imagination, but because your models don't actually move um, in game
Yeah.
because they are like static models. I think that's, again, not throwing shade, but that's a wrong concept because when I chose an army, and you know that I maybe have told, I think I've told you before, when I started the White Scars, because I don't run a hobby club, but I ran a heresy campaign to
Hmm.
get the heresy going in my home city, Münster. Um, I wanted to start an Ultramarines army, but because I actually like 30k Ultramarines, and I
Yeah.
was afraid of painting white. And then one of my friends told me, "But if you wanna paint if you wanna paint white scars, and you don't, and you more than you wanna paint Ultramarines, and you will never finish your Ultramarines." I was like, "Yeah,
Hmm.
you are right." And so I sat there and I bought some. I got some 40k models, and I started painting white just for painting white.
Wow.
Then I found like a recipe that I like and that I can replicate on the bigger units, like the tactical marine units that I don't want to spend so much time on,
Right.
and develop a paint white fast scheme.
Well, your models look really nice. Your white scars look really, really clean and crisp. Have very nice colors. So whatever you did worked. And you do everything by hand?
Yeah, I don't own an airbrush. I try to get one running, but that's I have evolution from HNS.
Right.
But it's like when you get like a compressor. If you get an 80 euro compressor, it's pretty possible that if you run it too hard, it will like just break. and the other compressors are a little expensive. And me just working next to uni, I have to save up to buy a good one. So that's what's holding me back the most at the moment. But I definitely try to get the airbrush running this year.
That will make your job, I think, a lot easier, even though you'll have to kind of relearn the recipe, as you said. But you have my respect, man. Your whites are beautiful, and I know from experience that doing it by hand is really.
Hello?
Hello,
Oh yeah, you cut off for a second.
I cut off.
Yeah, like the last thing you said. Doing whites are very, and
Huh,
then you cut
that's
off.
odd.
But I
Can you hear me?
guess you said whites are hard to paint.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, my recipe is actually starting from gray.
Right.
If anyone wants to see how I paint my whites, then just put it in the comments, I guess. Then I show you, no problem. I make a small tutorial or something. It's not that hard. It's easy. I can do it. Um so now going back to the lists
Yeah.
because we swayed a little bit, but that's no problem. That's kind of the gist of this video. So you do have a lot of dreads in drop pods and drop pods with more berserkers in it. Um, uh, how do you feel about hiding from my white scars? Are you afraid of the heavy bolters?
No hiding here. As you know, I mean, I don't have a lot of dreads. I just have two. So a box knot, but a rather special one. It's a siege box knot, if you like, with a siege drill with a heavy flamer, and then a flamestorm cannon. I'm very fond of him. And then I have a Leviathan with the usual pure melee configuration, and also heavy flamers. And on top of that, I have two Dread Claws, each carrying a unit of 10 tacks, just regular tactical marines, but despoilers. Bolters are for cowards. We don't do that. We just assault.
But heavy bolters are alright. Okay. Or are heavy bolters for heavy cowards?
Heavy bolters are good against Mechanicum, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true, right?
So basically, the idea is that since I can only deploy two of them in turn one, depending on again what mission we get and the deployment and the terrain and how you deploy and so on, I'll try and make the best tactical decision that I can as to which two to deploy first, and the other two will have to go onto reserves, no matter what I want.
Okay. So, as I as I see, you saw that I brought a flyer,
Yeah.
and you got a tarantula battery with twin link glass cannons. So I guess I guess you I mean everybody knows I got like 4 flyers for the heresy, but I guess you were prepared to bring something anti-flyer against my Xiphon.
No, I neglected that. I wasn't expecting a flyer because I very rarely play against flyers. And so the tarantula was just in case you brought like more tanks, basically, because um, except for the Typhon, everything else is kind of really mobile in my list, and that would be the only static element in the whole army. Of course, if you were like super nice, flexible, and kind, you could let me swap that for an anti-air tarantula, which I also own.
Oh,
But
I mean,
that's all right. It's my own fault. I should have been more flexible
so
with the
when
list.
we play the game, you can definitely swap it out for a anti-flyer tarantula, and I think that's a good point that you brought up. For me, the heresy is about having an enjoyable game for both parties that participate actually in the game. So
Definitely.
if my Xiphon is just flying all over the battlefield and causing havoc, um, and you can't do anything against it, I think that would be actually It wouldn't be a nice thing actually, and it wouldn't be fun for me, to be honest. Just my Xiphon picking off the Dreadclaws on the that are still flying about and whatever. I don't think that's enjoyable. So when we play the game, swap out the tarantulas for the Hyperion ones. Are they the Hyperion ones?
Yeah, I have the ones with the missiles that are pretty good,
Okay,
anti-air missiles. But thank you very much for being so kind. I think that's very fair of you. But I'd like to say that I couldn't agree more with the other statements you made. I think, I mean, any war game really should be about fun first and foremost, not about winning. But I feel that the heresy community in general, of course, there is exceptions to every rule, but I think in general, most guys are mostly preoccupied with having an immersive experience, as you said at the start, a nice looking game. They care very much about the aesthetic element, having nicely painted armies, nice terrain, and if possible, some kind of story that guides the game. And that's very much how I like to enjoy the game myself, and what I've tried to instill in others in this club that I run.
that's actually a good thing. Also, running a club helps the heresy. So, as you've said it before, and I've said it before, you have a box knot, a siege box knot, but a
That's
box knot
right.
nonetheless in your army. Um, have you accepted that the box knot is the best dreadnought? As I've said in multiple of my videos, that the box knot is the best dreadnought by far.
Well, I mean, it's got something going for it, which I don't think I bought. Could you scroll back a bit? I don't think I bought Armor Ceramite, did I?
Let me see. No, these are the
No.
drop pod rules.
No, I did not. But I was just going to say it is the only smaller dreadnought that can actually get Armored Ceramite, because Contemptors might have their shields, but they don't have that option, which I've often found detrimental, because I often play against opponents with lots of melta guns, and my Contemptors tend to die pretty quickly, regardless of their shields, because that's more dependent on luck. And
Yeah, I mean a
mine
5-up
is,
save.
yeah, it's not that brilliant, and I tend to have bad luck with that sort of roll. So I didn't get it for this little guy, but I could have got Armored Ceramite. I think that's quite useful. And the sole fact that this is the only dreadnought that can get the Flamestorm cannon, I think that's already a very strong reason to get it.
Yeah, the Flamestorm cannon is quite awesome.
Yeah, not the best range, but for Zone Mortalis games as well, by the way, that can really do a number on many units.
Yeah, they are definitely nice. So I have quite enjoyed this kind of video, and I hope we do this again. Um, have you any closing statement to do uh on this on the end of the video?
Yes, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure, and I've had a lot of fun. Also, in the other video that we recorded about Zone Mortalis, I think we definitely should make this a long-standing series and also start doing battle reports. And I would also like to thank you. I think it's really good to have a channel like you on YouTube that's centered on gaming, basically, and on promoting, raising awareness about the heresy. I think we need to get this community even larger, expand a little bit more.
Well, that's quite nice to hear from you. As I said, you are a good guy. You are my friend. I love talking to you. Talking about the heresy with my friends is one of the best things ever, I would say. Um, and
Indeed.
and it's like I think it's a very fun and infectious video to do. Just like talking about Legion, talking about the rules, and like making your thought process known is like something that helps other people as well. So it's not like, oh, which units to buy or which Rise of War to use, but also when you can explain why you use a certain unit or a certain kind of unit and how it affects the battlefield
Yeah,
is
and
quite nice.
I hope that our hobby and gaming positivity is infectious.
Yeah, I think the heresy needs that, actually. The heresy needs
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So let's keep doing it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And thanks to Race for Terra for joining us today. It was quite the enjoyable video. Thanks everyone for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And maybe if you will find a link to the Race for Terra's channel in the description. Go there, subscribe to his channel. He doesn't only do oil painting things, but also talks about heresy units that are underrated. So as he said in his opening statement, please go there and subscribe to his channel. Goodbye, stay healthy, and keep on heresy.